It's Paul Smith, and again I'm having my weekly cup of coffee with Sheila. Sheila,
yes.
The question that keeps popping up this week is, how does a bankruptcy affect my short sale? So if the sellers are already involved in the middle of a bankruptcy, or they intend on filing bankruptcy, how does that affect a short sale?
It affects it a lot, because as soon as that seller files bankruptcy, they no longer have the right to sell that asset until the bankruptcy is discharged and closed. So there's one of two ways that you can handle it. If you meet with the seller and to do a listing and they're going to file bankruptcy next week, it's pointless to put that property on the market, because the sellers don't have the right to sell that asset when it's tied up in a bankruptcy. So either you've got to wait for that bankruptcy to be discharged and closed, or you go to your attorney, your bankruptcy attorney, and you ask them to file a motion for abandonment. It doesn't remove the loan from the bankruptcy, it removes the asset. It gives the right back to the seller to sell that asset during the bankruptcy process. So what happens is, after the meeting of the creditors, the bankruptcy attorney can file a motion for abandonment with the bankruptcy courts. Now, this is not an automatic. It doesn't mean that the courts have to agree to it. They could come back and deny it. But 9 times out of 10, when you're in a short sale and there's no money to be had, the bankruptcy courts tend to go in your favor as the homeowner. So I've not had one denied for about 10 years now, because there's no money going to the seller in most of these cases. So when that's the case, the bankruptcy courts will review it. Now, the filing or the meeting of the creditors typically happens within about 30 days after the filing of the bankruptcy. After that, the bankruptcy attorney can file the motion for abandonment to get that motion granted by the bankruptcy courts. When that happens, now that takes another 45 days. So now that's 75 days before you can put the property on the market and try to market it. But there are some lenders, I've had Bank of America go ahead and process a short sale waiting on that motion for abandonment. However, Wells Fargo's a good example. You cannot do anything until that motion for abandonment or the bankruptcy is discharged and closed has occurred. So it depends on the servicer how they're going to handle it. The most important thing is, for example, Bank of America. They could possibly go through the whole short sale process, approve the short sale, and now you can take it to closing. However, if that bankruptcy is not discharged and closed, or the motion for abandonment granted, now the title company cannot close that transaction.
Ouch.
So, lots of work done, and getting to the closing table, now you can't do it because the title company has got that bankruptcy as a requirement that must be lifted before they can finalize the deal.
Gotcha. So in my opinion, if I was not looking at doing anything, just to protect myself from my creditors and going through the bankruptcy proceedings, what benefit do I have by not just letting the bank take the house back in a bankruptcy?
Well, they don't just take the house back. They have to go through the legal foreclosure process. Okay. So now we have a bankruptcy on our record and a foreclosure.
Both?
Both.
Oh, wow.
So, you know what? A bankruptcy is better on your record than a foreclosure. Right. Because a bankruptcy, you're limited. You can't file bankruptcy for a period of time. A foreclosure, you can do over and over and over again. There's no timeline that you cannot go through a foreclosure. A foreclosure is the worst hit that you can have on your credit report. So if you can avoid one of them, the most, to my opinion, I'm not an attorney, my opinion, a foreclosure is the best to avoid, because that's going to be on your record for 7 years. Okay. But a foreclosure is always on your record. It will always be there. Now, it'll affect you for the first 7 years of that foreclosure. But again, when they pull your credit report, that's a public record. It never goes away.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha. So, it comes up time and time again where there's a quite significant deficiency repayment that the bank's going to require either now or at some point. and I want to file bankruptcy because I don't think it was fair, because my neighbor, didn't get a deficiency repayment and I am, so I'll just file bankruptcy. Would it be better for me to wait until we've concluded the short sale, so that the mortgage and the property is no longer in my name and the house was sold, and then I consider what are my options as far as protecting myself and my creditors at that point?
That's kind of that's a legal question,
Okay.
so you most definitely want to address that with a real estate attorney, a bankruptcy attorney, because if the lender comes to you and says, okay, we want you to sign this note, and you know full well that after the closing of that short sale, you're going to file bankruptcy and you're going to renege on that note.
Right.
That's
right.
fraud.
There's
So
that.
you have to be careful.
But there are different types of attorneys, though. Would a bankruptcy attorney advise me properly, like, your experience, that not only am I going to have this bankruptcy that's going to be on my record and I can't apply for credit again for X amount of years, and there's a foreclosure, so my likelihood of ever buying real estate again is none. Do they actually advise their clients that, this is the ramifications that you're getting involved in here? Or,
No.
And can I say, Mr. Bankruptcy Attorney, what do you think about me short selling my house? Do they say that's a good idea? Because
What I've seen, my experience is the bankruptcy attorney is focused on the bankruptcy. That's all they care about. I had one where we got the short sale approved. We were going to closing, and the seller's bankruptcy attorney had him file bankruptcy 1 week before closing.
Okay.
Completely killed the short sale.
So
We were
that
done.
stops everything.
That stops everything. We're done.
Wow.
The short sale approval letter is void, everything. So I think the most important, if you're doing bankruptcy, most definitely talk to that bankruptcy attorney.
Okay.
They are your legal representation, but talking to a real estate attorney to understand the real estate aspect of, the law, I think is very important.
That is great.
So you understand both aspects, because the bankruptcy attorney specializes in bankruptcies, not real estate.
And the real estate attorney
Specializes in real estate.
not bankruptcy.
Correct.
Wow,
So in
that's
that
great
aspect,
advice.
you may want to have two attorneys advise you on that.
Wow, no wonder so many people look forward to watching these videos. Again, awesome advice, and the way you cover these topics is just really helpful to me and all your agents. Thank you again, Sheila.
Well, thank you. You guys have a great week. We'll see you next week.